Hello everybody, it's me again Hector with another movie review. Today I will be talking about the movie Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. Ever since I saw this movie a few months ago, I've been meaning to do a review but never got around to it until now. Anyway, this film offers an interesting twist on the classic tale of Hansel and Gretel, where a young boy and girl, brother and sister, are trapped by an evil witch in a house made of candy. Evil witch who ultimately intended to kill them and eat them, but the kids end up killing the witch instead and escaping. As far as I know, that's the basic storyline of that classic tale and exactly where the movie picks up. We see the kids pushing the witch into an oven and killing her right in the opening scene, and then the movie starts. If you ever wondered what happened to those kids later in life, this is the movie for you. The movie stars Jeremy Renner, who plays Hansel, and Gemma Arterton, who plays Gretel. Soon after the movie starts, we jump years later, and we see both of them as adults, and we also understand that they have become professional witch hunters. Apparently the witch they killed when they were kids wasn't the only one, in fact, not even one in a few, but it is implied that there's a ton of witches all over the place, doing all kinds of evil deeds, which mostly include kidnapping children. Of course, a movie like this couldn't exist without a good villain. In this case, we have Famke Jensen, who plays Muriel. She's known for movies like GoldenEye, Taken, and of course, X-Men, where she played Jean Grey. In this film, she plays an evil witch, and apparently the leader of all the rest, and she does a very good job. She is shown to be very powerful and proves to be a tough adversary for Hansel and Gretel. As far as the complete story or the ending, I will not give it away. This movie is not playing anymore, but it is still very recent and it deserves to be seen without spoilers. However, just to give a brief summary of the story, early in the movie we see that a large mob has gathered in the center of a village and are seen accusing a young woman of being a witch. The mayor or sheriff is also there, but instead of saving the young woman and dispersing the crowd, he actually seems to agree with the villagers and also seems adamant to kill her, by burning her, of course. But right before anything happens, Hansel and Gretel arrive and put a stop to it. Hansel tells everyone to go home, and he also takes a look at the young woman to see that she isn't a witch. Apparently he was able to tell by looking at her face, especially her mouth and her eyes. Like I mentioned before, there are so many witches around that they are actually a problem, so that is also established in this particular scene. At the same time, Hansel and Gretel commit themselves to getting rid of the witches. A lot of children have disappeared recently, and there's a lot of distrust and fear all around. As the movie goes on, we also understand that there's a specific plan behind all those children being kidnapped, for they don't appear to have been kidnapped at random, but were instead especially selected. More details about the criteria is discussed later in the film. That's pretty much it. That's the basic story. Everything eventually leads to a big showdown between good and evil, and we also get to discover something very interesting about Hansel and Gretel's past that even they didn't know about, and was indeed shocking. Given that Hansel and Gretel are witch hunters, they are very well armed, carrying around lots of weapons and gadgets, which they put to good use. As far as the weapons they use and the clothing they wear, I don't know if to give them a pass or criticize them, and if I wanted to criticize them, I wonder how I would even do that. The only reason I say that I don't know is because it's never established when or where the movie takes place, at least not that I can remember, so it's impossible to say what's accurate for the time period if we don't know what that is. If I had to guess, I would probably say the 1600s or maybe even 1700s, but who knows. Some of the language also seems a little off, meaning that the characters talk like we do, or at least like people would talk in 2013, which makes sense because that's when the movie was released, but I don't think it would make sense in a world the movie takes place in. At one point, Gretel even refers to the people in the village as hillbillies. It was very funny, but I wonder if anybody would say that back then. When it comes to the action, it was very impressive and very well done. This movie came out in January, but it feels like a summer movie. That's how much action and special effects it had. This movie was rated R, so it also had a lot of graphic violence and language, which I appreciated because nowadays most movies seem to be targeted for kids. You go to the movies nowadays and all you see are movies that are rated PG-13 or just a bunch of stupid cartoons. I don't care how good those cartoons or animated movies might be, or how much people might like them, they are just cartoons. Come on people, grow the hell up. Nothing against cartoons specifically, there's some that I have actually enjoyed, like How to Train Your Dragon and Up. But it just feels weird for an adult like myself to go to the movies and find 80 or 90% of the entertainment targeted for a 13 and under audience. Come on, man, is this a movie theater or Chuck E. Cheese's? I guess I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's pretty close. About 2 months ago, Despicable Me 2 opened, and it made over 140 million in its opening weekend. That's just ridiculous. Is this whole country populated with children? Well, maybe that's a topic for another video. Anyway, back to Hansel and Gretel. Later in the movie, we also get to meet Ben, a teenager from the village who is a fan of both of them, and at one point even asks for their autograph. Yes, in this world, they are basically celebrities. He also goes on to help them later in the film. We also meet a troll, Edward, who is very tall and strong. He appears to be bad at first, but actually helps Gretel escape from some angry villagers at one point. Villagers who were actually beating her up and apparently wanted to kill her too. And finally, Mina, the young woman who was accused of being a witch at the beginning of the movie, returns to help in the fight against evil witches and also reveals something about herself that we never suspected. Oh, and by the way, she also has a really nice nude scene about halfway through the movie. It was really hot. I don't know the name of the actress, but she was gorgeous. Something else that I liked about that particular scene was that it was done tastefully. So even for those of you who might be a little uptight when it comes to seeing nudity in movies, it's nearly impossible that the scene will bother you. It didn't bother me, but then again, I'm a guy, so whatever. And speaking of women in this movie, Gretel, played by Gemma Arterton, is also very attractive. The movie takes good advantage of her sex appeal, and it works perfectly. Just take a look at this poster. She didn't seem familiar, and I don't think I've ever seen her in other movies before, but she was very good. The movie is left open for a sequel, so she might be back. And Hansel, played by Jeremy Renner, did a good job in the movie too. He played Hawkeye in the movie The Avengers, and there's a lot of similarities between his character in that movie and this one. I wonder if someone saw him use a bow and arrow in The Avengers and offered him the part of Hansel just based on that. Who knows, but if there's a sequel, he should be back too. Oh, and speaking of Hansel, it is implied early in the movie that he actually developed a medical condition that affected his health as a result of eating so much candy or sweets as a kid, when that evil witch from a long time ago was trying to make him fat. I thought it was pretty clever, and nobody actually mentions the name of the disease, but we as the audience understand what they were talking about. Well, that's it for my review. This movie was great and I recommend it. Now, I mentioned the website Rotten Tomatoes in one of my previous videos, and this movie only got 15% positive reviews on that site. I have no idea why, because this movie was very good. Who knows what those critics were thinking? I guess because it wasn't a cartoon. You think I'm kidding? Look at this. Finding Nemo, 99% positive reviews. What a joke. Anyway, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, I give this movie a 9. Thanks for listening. Until next time. Bye.